after some time off because it's the summertime and we also deserve a break because this is such a hassle. We're back and yeah, so I'm Sophie.
I'm Cass.
And this is
Podclass
with Sophie
and Cass.
Okay. We're gonna talk about being productive today and everything that comes with that, the positives, the negatives, how we deal with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you start.
Yeah. I mean, well, I want to talk about why we chose this topic really quick. So I don't know why this past month I've been like really unmotivated, like doing the bare minimum, but like not just for what I needed to do, but also for myself. I really think that, for example, self-care is really important. And you maybe, I don't know, conditioning your hair or like doing your nails or whatever, that like those little things really do make a difference in how you feel, but not just because of like, how do I explain? Like not like on just like a physical aspect, but more about like how you feel internally. Like I think that when I take the time to like do a face mask, maybe there I'm like it like opens up like ways for me to get into like a productive mindset. And I mean like, yeah, like it's like it can be that simple to just kind of start you off. And like I wasn't even doing that. So I was like, I want to do this episode because I think a lot of people go through those times where they're just like in like ruts of like, depressive, you don't want to do much. And we're just figuring out ways, we're going to talk about ways that why it happens, like why we like procrastinate to do things that we should be doing, also on how we go and like take in like do all this work. Hold on, I'm losing my words. Like, I mean, we're also going to talk about like Sophie is going to mention biases that we have as humans because it's in our nature. And but ways that we can also like check that and like make sure that when we feel unproductive or we start to feel bad about ourselves, like how can we actively work out of those moods or situations.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like for me, like taking a shower, like a simple thing is like taking a shower will help me like start off my day properly. Like if I don't, or like what you said, like if I don't, like if my nails aren't done, for example, like I feel different. And then I'm like, I get into this like mood of like, oh, like I don't feel good. And it's like, it's what you said, it's really not physical. And I think also for me, it's been the summer. Like it's been a mix with the pandemic and the summertime because like this like summer started and not much changed per se. Like like I've gone on vacation here and there, but my routine has stayed the same, and having the same routine for a very long time, eventually it gets tedious. So it's going to lead you to not want to do like, you feel motivated, like, fuck, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to do the same shit I did yesterday, and so on and so forth. So for me, also the month of August, specifically like here in Spain, the month of August, I feel like here, like there's a routine for everything. Like, how like even in the summer, like everyone in the summer here in August goes on vacation, like the entire country. Either you go the first 2 weeks or the second 2 weeks. So it was like my body knew that, all these things were happening around me and it wasn't helping me focus on what I was supposed to be focusing on. So I found myself like procrastinating, especially with my studies. So for me, I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. Maybe I need a little break. And once August is over, I can, go back to doing what I was doing again in September. And as a matter of fact, I've been not on my routine for like 2 weeks. And I'm already like, oh my God, I want to buy like school supplies because I can't wait to get back to studying, And it really just took 2 weeks of falling back a little bit and being compassionate with myself, because also when you are I feel like we should mention like the people that are like very productive and like the people who feel like they always have to be productive, because if not, you feel horrible. And then there's the people who find a very hard time in being productive. I fall under the category that I have to do shit all day, like every day, 7 days a week. Like, maybe I'm like here in my room, I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, maybe I should do something for Sophia's storytelling. Like, I can't just like chill and do nothing. And obviously that's bad, because it's okay to sometimes just watch a movie or, whatever the case is.
So, okay, I have a question, because you said like you feel like you're overly productive. So it comes in like spurts, like you're just chilling and it's like, oh, like I should do something. Or when you wake up, do you plan your day? Do you have like certain things you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a list of like these are the things I want to get done?
So, when I'm like, for example, now, like I said, I'm taking like a small break, but when I'm not taking a small break, I wake up and in the morning, I'm like, all right, by this time, I need to have this done. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do, even like today, I'm like, okay. And I'm hungover as shit. But I was still like, you know what? We're going to film this afternoon. After we film, I'm going to work out. After I work out, like I'm already, but what's interesting? When I was in college, I had this professor and she mentioned, I don't know who this theory is by, I don't remember, but apparently there are two ways of thinking, linear or circular. So a linear person is that it's the person who, in order to do point B, you have to do point A first, which I fall under that category. And then people who think circular think like this. So it's like, no, like whatever, we'll see where the day takes me. And I have to say, I'm reading this book. It's called How to Be Successful Overnight or something like that. And it's about this girl. She started her skincare line, right? And it's called How to Become Successful Overnight, because she explains like that never happens. Like, you're never going to become successful from one day to the next. You have to be disciplined and you have to be consistent. And she says specifically, the key to success is having a routine, because when you don't have a routine, you fall into procrastinating. So sometimes I battle between like me being hard on myself, but then I'm like, I feel like if I wasn't hard on myself, I probably would have not achieved what I have so far,
Yeah.
So that's my struggle.
I don't know. My struggle is like, because sometimes I think it's you get really in your head, right? And it's like just this narrative that keeps like playing with the same one, because it's just you like talking to yourself all the time. And I really had like in a way a realization of like getting out of it was just like one like a few things. One, I was like, okay, I need to make lists, like you say, like I need to like just like, because there's so many things in your head and when you think about it, but until you actually write it down, like you don't see it, like you don't see maybe what it actually takes to do something, like let's say you gotta, I don't know, pay a bill, but oh wait, no, I need to like get something for that bill. So for whatever the case, like it's just like sometimes there's more to what you think you just have to do, and if you don't write it down, you're never going to do it and you never work through that. So I think lists are really important, really helpful. You get to check off stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting what you said about the narrative that we have in our heads. That goes back to what you mentioned earlier about the biases. So there's a psychologist, his name is David McRae, and he has 8 cognitive biases that he says you need to understand in order to understand how you perceive life, and that way channel them. So I'm going to briefly mention them. The first one is called projection, which is, well, when we project,
projecting.
You're projecting and manifesting. I feel like those 2 words have been so overused this year, but anyways. So we assume that everyone thinks the way that we think because our internal narrative and process of the world is all that we know. And that's the thing. Sometimes, because I think that I'm doing this wrong, if someone else does it wrong, I also think that they're wrong. And it goes back to what you were saying, like we have this narrative in our head that we're used to because that's just our mind. Like if you think about it, like no one else is inside your head but you. So if you have this bias of like, no, me chilling is a bad thing, every time that you're not doing something, you're going to feel terrible about it. And that's obviously torture, you know? Then there's this one, which I'm like, wow, exposed. Extrapolation is what it's called. And basically what it means is when you're in a point in your life, and I think this happens a lot, and I'm pretty sure people who have careers that take a lot of years of studying are going to resonate with this. When you're in a point in your life that you think it's going to always be like this, like, am I always going, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh my God, I was so back. Holy shit. Bro, you took the words on my fucking head.
When you read it, like, because you feel this way, but like, you don't know if there's an explanation behind it. So then when you read it on paper, it's like, okay, it's not just me. Like, this is the thing. He says, extrapolation is what happens when we take the current moment we are in and then project those circumstances onto our lives as a whole. So for example, in fearing that happiness won't last forever, we lose it. In fearing that grief will last forever, we create it. Deep. Right? Deep.
Yeah.
And it's true. We stress things because we're scared that they're going to not be forever. And then that's when we lose them. And then when we're feeling bad,
it takes into like to cope with that, right? Because you think like, oh, this is just like going to be my situation. That's where like mindfulness comes in. It's like, okay, no, like this is my situation right now. Like this is not for a forever thing. Like I just need to do my due diligence. I'm like, that's it. Like,
and if you think about it objectively, like, were you the same a year ago? Like, were you in the same situation a year ago? Even if you're studying, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you're in a career where a lot of years of studying are involved, you weren't in the same situation you are now. So why do we think that this is forever? I think it's fear that it will be, like deep down, you're like, oh, but that's why, like you said, once you're mindful of it, you can overcome it and be like, no, like this is just something I'm doing now, and try to look at it in an objective point of view, Another bias he mentioned is anchoring. So anchoring is when someone tells you something, like, for example, I tell you, oh, you've gained weight. And then you automatically are like, wow, this person thinks I'm fat. Everyone thinks I'm fat. So when someone gives you the slightest piece of information in regards to anything, and that's what you hold on to, versus which vaccines. But anyways, I'm not going to get into it. Y'all need to do more research than just what Twitter says. Okay. Negativity. Bro, this one with negativity, I was like, wow, these are the haters. No, but for real, negativity. And no, it's crazy because when something bad happens, for example, a car accident, right? And everyone wants to know what happens. Like what el chisme, you know what I mean? Everyone's there watching to see what happens.
Always your parents be like, all these people causing all this traffic, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, what happened? Just look at it like, you're a hypocrite.
The hypocrisy, like, for real. I'm the first one that I'm like, who cares? And then I'm like, espérate, what's going on here? So apparently we're fascinated by negative events because we can't find an explanation for them. So when someone dies, for example, a celebrity, everyone wants to know, like, oh, what happened? Because in our heads, we're like, we can't believe that this happened. Like, we can't explain it. So we're fascinated by it, which is kind of morbid, but yeah. And then we have conservatism, which is very similar to anchoring. Again, by the word, people who are very close-minded. Clustering illusion, which means you subconsciously see patterns in events because you've seen them in the past. So let's go to dating, right? When people leave you on red and are unavailable, and you're like, wow, he's probably cheating on me, because in the past, when people have left you on red or have been acting weird, they've cheated on you, which now it may or may not be the situation, but because that's a pattern that you've seen in the past, automatically that's how you see it now. Then we have confirmation, another one you can relate to dating when you think that something's going on and you're waiting for a confirmation and you're like, well, I knew it. I knew it. And then choice
I love
supportive.
these examples.
The shade, people, the shade.
Yeah.
El que lo coja, you got me. Anyways, and then choice supportive, which is the last one, when you consciously choose something. Listen to this again with dating. When you consciously choose something in your head, it's automatically better than what you didn't choose, even if it isn't. So for example, let's say that you marry a douchebag and you have a good guy in your life, but in your head, you're like, no, my husband is better because I chose my husband. And in reality, it's not.
You're just trying to like validate your choice.
Your choice. Exactly. Yeah. So with those 8 biases, I hope that helps you guys to kind of like get to know yourselves.
Yeah. A bit more. I mean, that's crazy. The one that really hit home for me though was the one about like thinking you're going to be in something forever.
Extrapolation. Yep.
Yeah. And okay, getting out of this rut, I worked through that by just like, okay, you know what, I need to be grateful of what I do have and like change. And anytime I'm like in a really bad headspace and I talk to you, like that's the one thing you say, like, Cass, like, like think about everything we've been through, like we have so much, like we're so great, like we should be grateful for the opportunities we have to do what we're doing. And I'm like, you know what, like instead of me like not thinking about that, I need to be grateful for the family I have, the support that I've had. Like not many people get that. So it's like for me now, I'm like, no, I need to live up. Like I need to work hard because I have like all this ready for me. I just need to like put in the work for it.
With everything that you just said, I think it's inevitable to sometimes doubt what you're doing, doubt your potential, doubt yourself. I blame the way that our society works, because since we're little, we're encouraged to compete. So when you see people your age, maybe you have a friend who's engaged. Maybe you have a friend who's has a successful business. Maybe you have a friend who just got a promotion. And you want to be happy for them. Of course, you want to be happy for them. They're your friends. But sometimes in the back of your mind, you're like, damn, what am I doing wrong? Why don't I have that? And it's like, maybe they want what you have, maybe. And again, going back to the careers that take so many years of studying, like yours, like mine, it takes more time. So you don't see the results as immediately. So because we don't see them, you're like, yo, is this worth it? And you get these doubts. But then if you really think about it, like the 4 years you have left of studying, 5, 6, they're going to pass. They're going to go by regardless of you doing that or not, And that's what I tell myself sometimes. I'll be like, damn, I've been studying forever. But then I'm like, what would I be doing if I wasn't? I'm not wasting my time. And I think it's important, like you said, to be grateful for what you have and to also look back and be aware of your accomplishments, because sometimes we forget. Like for me, graduating college it never even felt like an accomplishment. Truthfully, it was just something that it's like, I had to fucking do it, like it wasn't something that I was like, wow, I'm so proud. Even like with the books that I've published, it's never been something that I've celebrated and like, look at me. It's just something that I'm like, no, I have to do this if I want to have the life that I want, and I have to continue to do it. The hard part is to keep pushing until you get there. But then do you get there? You don't. You never get there, because where are you going? In the sense, like, success isn't about money. It's about gratification. You can have all the money in the world, and if you aren't aware, like you said before, and grateful for it, you're going to keep wanting more. So my dad tells me this all the time. He's like, the goal is a goal until you get there. because when you get there, you're going to have a next goal and a next goal. So if you keep chasing, that's all you're ever going to do. You're going to keep chasing and chasing. And that's why even when you're not where you want to be, you have to also be at peace with that. And the other day, in this book that I mentioned, I recommend this book to anyone. It's called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. And each essay talks a lot about self-growth, self-discovery. And one of the things that they said was, milestones are markers that you're evolving. They do not create emotional fulfillment in the way we think they will. This confusion is why, with the dawn of each new year, our resolutions are to change our lives rather than to change ourselves. But what if we made goals that were more about loving what we have rather than chasing what we don't?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that is my emotional take on it. I feel like lately I'm on this emotional intelligence journey and it's so hard for me to connect with people.
Here's the video. Oh man. Okay. So no, I do want to talk a little bit about I have some notes on why we procrastinate in terms of like what's going on in our brain. So because you can think it's all about like what you do and how you act, and it's on you, but sometimes there's things about your character that you may not be aware of that can influence if you procrastinate or not, and what are ways that you can change it. Cool. So procrastination, it's about the decisions that you make pretty much. Right? If either I decide to read this chapter of a book that I need to read for class, or if I watch an episode of Friends. Okay, so you're deciding what you want to do now. But what are what happens when we procrastinate? So it's pretty much two parts of the brain that are like in argument with each other. So you have the prefrontal cortex, which is like the higher portion, higher level thinking, and then our limbic system, which wants to play. It's very primitive. So why does the limbic system usually win? That's because of your amygdala. So your amygdala is this very small like part in your brain. It controls fear, anxiety, and your fight or flight response. So when we procrastinate, we experience a mild anxiety response to a threatening stimulus. A stimulus could be a paper that you have to do, a workout that you're putting off. And why are you afraid of it? Because you start to get overwhelmed by like, oh, I have to do this. I have to, I'm like dreading going to run, or I'm afraid that I'm going to fail this test. So how can we work on this? Ways to work on it. It's plan what you want to do as you split it up. So pretty much like how I was saying, you make your list, and let's say like I have to do research on a paper. Okay, that's very vague. Like I have to be specific about it. All right, what am I starting on? What is this paper on? What do I need to look up? Yada yada yada. How, like you start to actually break down the task that you have at hand, because it's not just a task. There's steps to it. So if you break it down, then it's easier because you're just breaking down like these mini steps. You also need to know the time frame for what it is that you need to do. Like if you have to write a 10-page paper, don't start 2 days before. Clearly, like have like
we've all done that, people.
Yeah, don't be me
real.
up at like a fucking cafe until like 1 a.m. Also plan the resources before you start. So again, like if you need to write your paper, you need to do research for your paper, so you have it laid out. Like don't start your paper by starting your research. If you break it up, it's so much easier. Plan the process. So if you plan out the process, this like tricks your brain into thinking you've already done it, so it's not as like scary in a way, because like doing it for the first time. And then plan for distractions. So make a commitment to be focused. If you're going to be doing something that deserves your focus, turn your phone off, leave it in another room. Let your friends know, like, I'm busy till a certain time. Like pretty much just set yourself up for success in the way possible. Because it's not just you, it's really your situation and your circumstances that are affecting you as well.
Yeah. I think also it's very important, like, the intention of what you're doing, like in the sense, like if you go into doing something already like thinking like, oh my God, this is so annoying, like I have to do this, you're already like, not, you're already unmotivating yourself. So you're going to start doing something and you're probably 15 minutes in, you're going to be like, oh, whatever, I'll just like leave it for later. So try, and I know that obviously sometimes we have to do stuff that we don't want to do, but try to have like a positive mindset on it. Like I'm going to give my experience, and okay, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty good student. I always have been. And I'm preparing for this very rigorous exam. And it's a lot. Like it's a lot of content. You have to prepare a project. So I'm literally going to be taking a year off just to focus on this. Now, the hard part goes into what you just said. When you have something like that, if you don't separate it into parts, you won't do it. Like if I look at this exam as like, oh my God, look at everything that I have to do, I'm going to already be like, you know what? I can't do this. This is too much. Yeah. Versus if I'm like, you know what? I'm going to organize my mornings, an hour of studying this, an hour of studying that, your chapters. And like you said, preparation is key. I'm going into this year already having read all the units that I have to study. So I'm familiar with what I'm going to do versus if I have no idea, which like you said, the example with the research paper, if you're going into doing something and you're not sure about what you're writing about, you're going to give up on it. And this goes the same for presentations. I always tell people, and I tell my students, when you have a presentation, make sure you know what you're talking about, because when you don't, you're projecting insecurity, and the people, the audience, they can sense that. And when you're insecure about something, you probably don't know a lot about it. So prepare yourself for it. Also, like you said, you know what I've been doing? I feel like kind of a nerd for saying that I do this, because there's these videos on YouTube that says like 5-hour study with me. And it's like someone studying in freaking Liverpool, and they'll have like a timer. But bro, I love it, because what they do is they'll like study for an hour and then they have a timer and it'll go off and it'll say rest time. And then you can rest for 10 minutes and then the timer will go off again and you have to go back into studying. So for me, finishing like the video is what makes me feel accomplished. I'm like, okay, I did the full 5 hours today. Because if you think about, oh my God, 5 hours of studying, that sounds horrible. But if you find ways to cope with it, like, oh, I'm going to do it with someone, or I'm going to take a break every hour or whatever, it helps, It's all about organizing yourself.
Yeah, sometimes like I be doing some chem problems and an hour passes and I'm like, what? I have to take a break already. Like I'm so in this right now. Like I need to continue.
Yo, when you're doing something like you said, like problems, or like, because I feel like it's different when you study versus when it's active learning. Because for me, when I'm doing like the project, for example, it's the same thing. I'll be doing it and then I'm like, oh my God, like an hour already passed by. Like I feel like I haven't done shit, But then when you're just reading something, an hour is a lot of time, bro. When you're just reading something over and over again. But again, you guys, going back to it will be worth it at the end of the day.
Don't be good.
No, because this is my thing, y'all. I'm gonna say I have been lit this month. Like I have been going out, tiki here and there, right? Because I know that September 1st is the day that my life is
same doomsday, yo. It's fucking doomsday, yo.
Bro, but whatever, it's fine. We're like, you're not fine, but it's like, it's fine. I'm gonna be fine. But yeah, I think that we addressed a lot of things.
All the topics, yeah. One last thing I wanted to mention. I was actually listening to this video about procrastination from this guy. His name was like, it's a doctor, Ted Bahar, some shit like that. I'll put it in the show notes. But he was talking about like how procrastination, you feel like it's like, oh, I don't have the energy to do this. But people think like, oh, I'm gonna have to wait for motivation or inspiration or whatever to do something. He's like, in reality, it's action before inspiration. Sometimes you start doing something and as you're doing it, that's where you start to really get involved and really get it. So you can't let your mind literally psych you out of something that you don't even know. Like your brain is always going off of past experiences. Every moment is new. It can be new, but you just have to be open to that. So yeah.
That's a good one, dude. Because that's true. Like every time that you're learning, I feel like especially when you're learning a new skill or something that you haven't like ever done before, because that happened to me with the books. When I first started with the books, I remember, it's crazy. It's gonna be almost a year since I published
the first one?
Rainbow Aces Colores.
So
yes.
Crazy.
It's gonna be almost a year. That's crazy, right? And I remember when I first started, it was something that I knew nothing about, like nothing about. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing, to be completely honest. And even in terms of creativity, of me having like the fluency of writing a story, it was so hard for me at first. And I'm not gonna lie, I did procrastinate a little bit at first because I was like, I don't know really what I'm doing. I don't know if this is going anywhere. And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna push through till I do it, just for like the self-satisfaction of like, I did it. So yeah, I think that's it. It was nice talking to you guys again. Yes. We'll see you soon. And peace out.